Hey, what's up guys? In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace your BMW R1250 or R1200 GS or GSA front shock. If you have one of these bikes, you know that the front shock is prone to blowing out if you do any kind of extreme off-road or hardcore off-road. And it's also a huge process to get to it. All the plastics have to come off the tank and so on. So in this video, again, I'm going to show you how to do that with ease. It's pretty simple as long as you follow this video. So here under the front of the new bike, we've got the OEM shock. There's actually nothing wrong with this. It's not blown out or anything like that, but I do have a good tractive shock on my old bike that I'm gonna be swapping out. So you can kind of see it's buried up under the front end. All these plastics have to come off, tank, all that good stuff. So your bike is basically gonna go from this to this right here. We've already pulled all the plastics, the gas tank, all that stuff off of the old bike to get to the front shock. So one thing I'm not going to do in this video is show you how to get all these plastics off. Everybody has different crash bars. If you have the factory crash bars, that's great, but if you've got aftermarket crash bars, they mount very similar, but everything's a little bit different. But if you go to a bike thing, I'll leave his channel, his video down below in the description. That is a absolute killer video on how to get all these plastics off down to the fuel tank. I've used that video a lot as a reference, and we'll actually probably use it today as we pull all these off. But check out his video and then come back and we'll show you how to get from this, and we'll start at this point here. So one thing I do want to point out is whenever you are pulling all the bolts off the bike, make sure and separate them, because you have a lot of bolts on this bike, and after a while, if you're just kind of trying to lay them out in spaces, you might get a little bit confused. So that's just kind of a pro tip on how to take all the bolts and put them nice and organized. That way when you go to put them all back together, you know where it's at. And again, that video that I mentioned a minute ago is an awesome video to both put plastics on and take them off. So once you get your tank off and all that good stuff, and you get to your air box, it's fairly simple. Remove these two bolts here. You can remove this if you want, and this hose clamp if you want, or you can leave it on there and just roll it back this way. But there's these clamps that go on the intake. Remove those, one on each side, and then once you got that, it just rolls back. You've got some intake tubes that go in this little spot that need to come off. Kind of work them out. They're not too difficult. And then that exposes the top of the shock. Top bolt here. You've got your bottom one there. And if you're just replacing the shock and not doing anything else, you can do it with leaving the wheel on and everything. You do have a little bit more room if you remove the fender and all that good stuff, but it is doable. You just need to lift the bike up a little bit so that the wheel and the rim hangs freely off the ground. So maybe put a jack underneath it. Let me show you what we did over here. Put a jack underneath it, and we did remove the front tire just because we were also swapping out the steering stabilizer. Once you let it hang loose, you take your front, we'll do the front bolt, or the top bolt, then we'll do the bottom bolt, and then the shock just lifts up and comes out, and I'll show you that here in just a minute. So we did go ahead and remove the front tire just because we're gonna remove the steering stabilizer right there. So Josh is gonna go ahead and do the top one first. Go down here to the bottom one. So you want to take some tension, lift up on it, and it should just come right out. And then that allows the forks to extend all the way. You can see it's just kind of sitting down in there. So now we'll come over to the bottom and finish getting this bottom one out. And then you're going to unplug your wire from your shock, and that is located right in here. So this is located just right up here, and there is a tab on the back side of this that you have to move over and slide back to get that off there, and then you simply just push on that. Well, push on that and it goes that way. It's hard to do with one hand here. So then that connects from there. This is your wire that's attached to your shock, and then you just lift up on the shock inside the slot up there. Once you get the bottom out, you're literally just gonna make sure the top is in the groove kind of to the back side, push it back, lift it up, and then it just comes right out. Make sure you have all of your wire loose before you just let go of this, and then pull it right on out. So the factory shock is oriented like this with the reservoir up top. The tractive one is just the opposite. You're going to orient it with the reservoir at the bottom, and your wire is going to come up the top, and you're just going to route it into a safe place down and connect it to the same spot. So we'll go ahead and do that now. It's the same way, just kind of hold it in kind of at a 45, kind of lace it up in there. We have all that room, and then roll it down into place and let it fall down like that. And again, you take your wire, and down this side of the frame is probably the safest. Here up top, there's already the brake lines, so just kind of follow the brake lines there. Come out the other side. Lots of stuff in here. Again, just make sure nothing's pinching or anything like that out of the way. And you're gonna route it back to the factory position down here below the factory connector. Then just zip tie everything up and get it all nice and clean and out of the way. So make sure you put Loctite on your bolts and you put these back in, because you definitely don't want to have to go back in there and retighten everything back up. If you have a helper, makes it nice. Come up with it just a tiny bit. So we got this bolt in, and to get this one in, you basically just have to lift it up and kind of guide it in. And then you'll go ahead and torque both of these to spec. I'll leave the specs down in the description below. I don't know off the top of my head right now, but we'll look them up and I'll leave them down in the description. All right, so new shock is in. Just swapped over our aftermarket steering stabilizer as well. Super easy, bolt on. Basically goes on just like you would take the factory one off. Pretty self-explanatory there. Now that everything is done, I'm just gonna basically do everything in reverse. We'll put the fender on, the wheel on, and then again, we're gonna follow the video from A Bike Thing. He has an excellent video on what bolts go where, and also step-by-step ways to do it. So we're gonna go ahead and we'll follow his video. That way, I don't have to recreate the wheel here. And I'll leave that link down below. Guys, if you have any questions about this process, it's pretty self-explanatory. The hardest part is just getting to it, because you know, there is a ton of stuff to remove as far as plastics go, gas tank, all that good stuff. So if you have any questions at all, definitely hit me in the comments below. Glad to help you out. And we're gonna go ahead, put this bike back together, and we'll see you in the next one.